Coach Brennan, and then we'll take questions. Coach?
Good to see everybody. Appreciate y'all being here. Obviously coming off a really hard day, Saturday in Houston. We want to, pay our respect, that I thought Coach Fritz and that staff did a great job, but obviously a very disappointing ending for us. Now we're into this bye week, really important time for us, an opportunity for us to get fresh, for us to really dive into some of the fundamental parts of just playing football, and as always for us to just attack Redline. And the players came in yesterday. Obviously everyone's hurting, but they're committed to doing this thing the right way. And we have 5 games left, a lot of football left to play, and we're excited about it. We've got some big time opponents, starting with this next one in Colorado in 2 weeks. So we've got our work cut out for us, but we're excited to get going.
Great, thank you, Coach. We'll start with David and then Justin.
Coach, obviously you've had a ton of success in the fourth down piece this year and going forward. What is the conversation like with you and Seth on those calls? I would imagine you tell him, I want to go for it, and then how does it evolve from there? Do you discuss what you want in that situation, or does he have?
Yeah, it has to happen pretty fast, right? It has to happen pretty quickly when you got a play clock burning. But lots of times that'll happen on the previous play, right? So we're third and long or third and medium, and I'll say, hey, you got 2 downs here. So that Seth can make the play call before fourth down. Knowing that he's got another shot at it, right? So that opens up a little bit more to the idea. But the other person that's been great with that has been Danny, right? Because sometimes when you do those things, if you don't get it, you're putting the defense in a tough situation. But Danny's ready to play defense anywhere. So it's the conversations between the 3 of us have been really positive.
Justin and then Troy.
So after watching film from the last 2 games, as far as teams and the rushing attack on the defense, just how do you assess that, and where do you guys move forward just in terms of stopping the run? Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's a huge point of emphasis for us, just really because we were so good, earlier in the season, in our run defense. What we've seen is that people have been attacking us with a bunch of quarterback run the last 2 weeks, and that's obviously a huge point of emphasis as we get going here. There's a couple things that I think are, I think if you look at that game last week, I think we, one of our reasons for returning to fundamentals in the practice environment this week is that we missed too many tackles. So those numbers weren't, shouldn't have been what they would have been if we would have made the tackle or gotten the guy down when we had a chance to. And then I thought they also did a good job schematically, and obviously their quarterback and their back are both good players.
Troy and then Chris.
I'm kind of going off of that, along with the defensive thing. The third down defense over the last two games has kind of been shaky. Just your thoughts, what's going wrong there on third downs?
I think it's a combination of a couple of those things, missing tackles, or maybe us not executing the exact details of what we're supposed to get done. And then I think we're also playing against good football teams.
Chris and then Michael.
So Trey Spivey is 6th on the team in targets, but on 11 touches, he has 5 touchdowns. Really effective, getting in the end zone when he has the ball. What can you and Seth do to just get him more looks back half of the season?
Yeah, absolutely. His production has been off the charts, right? Which is really exciting. I think that's one of those things that we felt great about the receiver room and the pieces that we added there over the offseason. And so that, because also Chris Hunter's a really good player too, right? And Chris Hudson a good player. And then, in the slot, we've got Nunu and we've got Wysong and we've got the young guys. And so there's a lot of people that can contribute in meaningful ways. And I think the more you see Trey play, the more confidence he plays with, which is really kind of what you would hope. And so, without saying we're going to throw it to Trey Spivey every play, right? Obviously, we want to put the ball in his hands.
Michael and then Jason.
There were a couple of calls that didn't go your way in that game. The one on the sideline that they didn't overturn, and then the illegal motion where they picked up the flag. Did you submit those to the conference for further review? And if so, have they gotten back to you?
We did submit them, and they got back to us.
And they said?
Honestly, we're talking too much about the officials the last 2 weeks, and really I just want to focus on what's next, and that's the University of Colorado.
Jason and then Brian.
The one play, the 4th and 1, with the RPO with Noah, the announcers kind of said that maybe it was just a called straight up handoff because of the read. Was that
in the second quarter?
Yeah.
Straight handoff.
It was.
Yep. We missed a block. Yep. It's frustrating because it was obviously, I talked about it in my press conference after the game. It was the huge momentum play in the game.
Brian and David.
When it comes to the fundamental aspect in practice, What's the schedule going to be like this week as far as that before you shift to Colorado? Or is this week all going to be fundamental and about yourself and everything up on it?
It's going to be a combination of both. And so a big part of this week also is that we need to get fresh, right? We've been at this for a few months now. Guys are beat up. And so we need to get our bodies fresh also. So we need to be smart about the intentional work that we get done in the practice environment, getting fresh, returning to fundamentals, and then also introducing preliminary Colorado game plan stuff.
David and then Damian.
Coach, I know Danny last week kind of talked about, really the role of the deep safeties in the run game, and you talked about Dalton and Traden and those guys coming down into the box to try to be that middle linebacker. But how much do you think this defense really needs a true middle linebacker, and how much maybe could a guy like Riley Wilson be that guy for this defense?
I think Riley Wilson is playing exactly where he should be. We're getting a lot of production out of him and Max. And so, and the combination of what we're doing schematically, it's hard when you don't get the results you want, because then everybody needs to blame something. You know what I mean? But we're playing good defense, and obviously it wasn't good enough on Saturday, but I'm confident with Coach Gonzalez and that defensive side of the ball. Those guys will get going. They'll get that thing on track.
Damian and then Troy.
I was kind of speaking of which, why specifically do you feel that the QB rushes have been such an issue with the defense in the last couple games?
So we've talked about this quite a bit. I will tell you that that's one of those things in football that is challenging, because it gets your numbers. It's all running the football is all. Do you have more blockers than they got defenders, or do you have more defenders than they have blockers? Right. So you're always trying to get +1 on either side of the ball, whatever. And when the quarterback runs it, normally the quarterback is just a guy handing the ball off, right? And so he's a non-factor in the count. Does that make sense? And so I think that's one of the things that's challenging. And then I think both those guys are good runners too, right? Both the BYU quarterback and the Houston quarterback were both powerful, strong kids, and that's a situation where you have to have population at the football, and we have to get people on the ground.
Troy and then Justin.
A lot can get lost positively in the loss when you have that, but just the progression and Noah Fafita from the BYU game to the Houston game, and just how he's been developing throughout the year.
Yeah, I think Noah's on a great track. When you complete 24 of 26, that's a pretty special day in football anywhere. You know what I mean? And so and I think one of the two, one was batted and one was a drop. You know what I mean? And so I think Noah, his relationship with Coach Daggy, I think his comfort in the offense, I think you see him improving and growing week by week. It also speaks to just what a competitor and what a hard worker he is, right? It's so important to him. And so when you see somebody invest that level of time and effort and energy into being really good, and you start to see the results, it's awesome to see that for that kid.
Justin and then Michael.
And we saw a lot of short passes, screens, getting the ball out quickly. What do you make of just how you guys were able to scheme that game, and do you feel like maybe that's the kind of system that's suited for Noah?
It's honestly, I've said this before. It really depends on who we're playing, right? Like where the ball goes, right? And so I think that's to credit to Noah, is that ball was being delivered with accuracy and timing to the right spots, right? And so. And then I thought Coach Daggy and the offensive staff did a good job scheming that up.
Michael and then David.
How do you convince the players and the fans that things are going in the right direction when you don't have the results to back it up?
That's the trick. That's the hardest thing about it, right? And I think when you look at those last two games, when you lose two games that way, and it's so hard and it's so challenging, the thing that we talk about with the players is, what choice do you have? I mean, really, what choice do you have? You want to choose to believe you can or you can't. And so with this team believes they can. And that's the way they showed up for work yesterday, and that's the way they'll show up for work tomorrow. You know what I mean? And I understand everyone's frustration, because everyone here is frustrated too. Like, no one puts more into this thing than the players and coaches do that are in the building, right? Like, the care factor in this space right here is incredibly high. And so are the disappointments when you don't get the results you want, right? But helping our players navigate that and doing those things the right way, and continuing to live Redline and continuing to dive into our process is what's given us a chance to play better football. We're playing better football, right? And if we stay the course, we will get it. We have to keep pounding the rock. Eventually, it's going to break.
David and then Jason.
Coach, you mentioned on the 4th and 1 you didn't get that was a designed run play to hand it off. All 3 of the ones were run plays. You were obviously successful on the other 2. But what's the RPO element in that in terms of Noah's ability to make the decision whether to keep it a straight run or to keep it and go? And how's he doing in that respect, do you think?
He's doing great in that respect. And I think that there's a difference there, right? That was not a called RPO. That was a straight called run. Very different, right? Run PO or RPO is run pass option. He can do either. And he's really good at that stuff. You know what I mean? And so I think that's why you see him hitting some of those throws, 24 or 26. You know what I mean? Like, it's him making good decisions with the ball in his hand.
That's just quick. Then he said after the game, though, he should have pulled it. So he didn't, but that wasn't an option there for him to pull.
Pulling it and throwing it are two different things, right? Because on that play, there was not a pass option, right?
So he could have pulled it in.
He could have pulled it and kept it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jason and then Justin.
How do you kind of, similar to Love's question, how do you avoid, last year it seemed a little bit with the scores and stuff, guys started feeling bad for themselves a little bit. How do you kind of avoid that when you have games that are so close and right there, but they're not able to kind of get there?
I agree. That is an incredible challenge. And it's an incredible challenge in the world where these young people are growing up in, because the public scrutiny is so much more than when I played or or generations of the past played, because everybody has access to them through their phone, right? Everybody can, tag them on social media, that kind of thing. I think the important part for us moving forward is that we need to focus on the good things that we did in those 2 games and realize that was 2 weeks ago, that was the first place team in the Big 12 that we went toe to toe with for 4 quarters and 2 overtimes and had a chance to win. And we didn't, but we were there. And last weekend, we're on the road against a 6-1 team, a 5-1 team, and we're down 2 touchdowns in the 4th quarter, and this team battled back and found a way to battle back and tie that game late in the 4th. You know what I mean? So I think there's so many positives also. And so again, to Michael's question, what are you going to choose to focus on? Right? There's details, there's things that we need to fix as a coaching staff, right? And emphasize and get tightened up with our players, right? But then there's also so many good things that we have to be excited about in that game, or we have to be excited about in the BYU game, and help the players see that, like, look at all the positive things that are happening. Stay the course. It's going to work for us. Because again, what choice do you have? Like, how do you want to live?
Justin and then Chris.
What has been the biggest improvement in Cameron Barmore's game since the time in spring where we kind of struggled to settle in a little bit? What has been the most noticeable thing about his improvement, and how does that add to what Sam does?
I think it's really exciting to see Cam playing the way he is, and it's really fun because what we asked him to do when he came here is so different than kind of what he was used to doing, right? And so that part of it is, it's exciting to see him become an effective blocker and play with physicality. And that's part of his developmental process. I mean, I think that's one of those things. After the game the other day, you and I, we talked about Coach Miller. And I think that's something that all of our coaches are excellent at, is developing players. And I think that's part of the college process, right? And so, everybody wants the freshman to show up and be the best player on the team and like all that stuff, or the transfer to come in and instantly light the world on fire. But there's a developmental process towards getting good at college football, or getting good in this scheme, in this situation at a different institution. And to Cam's credit, he's just leaned into it. He's leaned into the coaching, he's leaned into the hard work, and you're seeing him play his best football he's played.
Our last 2 will be Chris and then David.
Not a guy that you coached when he was at Arizona, but Lucas Haversick set the Packers franchise record yesterday, 61-yard field goal. Arizona is also the only team with 3 kickers, active kickers in the NFL right now. Just what does that do to kind of boost Arizona's brand on a national scale, having 3 guys kicking right now in the NFL?
I think anytime you have players that have come from your program and are playing in the National Football League, that's a great thing for the program, right? It's really cool to see all that. And his story is such an interesting story too. Just the kicker path is normally not like Tyler Loop. Like, normally those guys aren't getting drafted. Normally they're getting signed, and then they get cut, and then they get picked up, and then and to his credit, he's just stayed with it, right? And now he's really kind of establishing himself as a good player in that league at that position. So I think it's really special. Anytime we have a Wildcat playing in the National Football League, that's exciting for us.
We'll finish up with Dave.
Rhino got back in there, obviously had a big block on the last touchdown by Kedrick. Just kind of what's the advancement been for him, or maybe over the last couple of weeks?
I think Rhino's moving in a good direction, and I think there's been a lot of positive, growth and development with that offensive line. I think Coach Oglesby's doing a great job with those players, and I think we've seen that production be solid. And so, Rhino coming off that injury, basically we're right at the line where he got hurt a year ago. You know what I mean? So it's just now a year. And so for a big person like that, with the movement that he has to do and those kind of things, I think his progress has been good. Also we're being smart with him in terms of making sure his path back to playing full time and his path back to being a consistent contributor, that he's ready for that, because he was a redshirt freshman that started 6 games and then tore his ACL. So in truth, he hasn't played a lot of football, right? And so I'm excited about what he's doing and the path that he's on. And I think we're just going to continue to see more and more good things from him throughout his career.
Great. Thank you, everybody.